This question is taken from June 14 SS02 paper. It's a question on time series. The data is presented in the table at the top of the question and is for 5-day week, Monday to Friday, on weeks 3 and 4 at the college. And the deputy principal of the college is keeping a record of students who are absent. The first part of the question asks us to calculate the missing moving average, which appears here as M in the table. The moving average will always be centred on the values that it's calculating the moving average for. So the first value of 6.4 is the average for the first Monday to Friday set of data. What then happens, as you'll be aware with moving average, is the first Monday is taken out of the equation and then the second Monday is brought in. So the calculation at the bottom of the page here for the missing value, which is equivalent to M, has been calculated here and has been calculated by adding 4.6, 4.1, 6.5, 10.4 and 10.1 and then dividing by 5 to find their average. So the value of M is 7.14 and fits in here. The second part of the question asks us to plot the moving averages on figure 1, which I've done here. I've also, this question's been done prior to me completing, I've also put the trend line on there. So what I've done is I tend to put the moving averages on and put the coordinate points in a circle, and then I've drawn the trend line by just best going through those points. That's a line of best fit, doesn't require any further calculation. Again, in the exam I've done one with pen so it comes out clearly on the camera, but do please use a sharp pencil and a ruler for this just in case you make a mistake. B part 2 asks us to describe the variation and the trend in the percentage of students who are absent. This graph that we've got here shows seasonal variation about an upward linear trend. There are a number of different trends that you need to be able to describe, and I would suggest just looking through the textbook and making some revision cards and revising all of the different ones that you need. On to part C of the question, and part C then asks us to make a prediction using the line. It says that assuming that the current pattern continued, use the trend line and the seasonal effect for Friday to forecast the percentage absent on the Friday of week 5, showing how you obtained this forecast. Okay, this question comprises of two main parts, and you must make these clear. The two Friday values are shown on the graph here. The trend line predicts a value here, but clearly Friday is above the trend line. And what I've done with the calculation that appears here on this page is to show the effect of Friday. So from the graph, if I just get the piece of graph paper back, the value that I observed on the graph was 10.4, but the line would suggest a value of 7.9. Hence that value there. For the second Friday on the graph that's visible, the value here comes out at 13.8, the true value for Friday. The trend line would suggest a value of 11.5. So the effect of Friday was 2.5 for the first set of data, 2.3 for the second set of data. And then I calculate the Friday effect by finding the mean of those two values. If there were 3 Fridays, then I'd add the 3 values up and divide by 3. Sometimes that's the case, sometimes even 4 values might be available, and you divide by however many points that you've got. So my Friday effect is 2.4. What I then do is I come back to my line, and Friday of week 5 on the graph comes out at 15.2, just here. So I would expect, if the Friday effect continues as it had done before, for my point to be 2.4 percentage points above the line 15.2. So if you'd like to see that physically, it's going to be 2.4 up here, and the correct value would be 17.6. Now, assuming that there's going to be some variation in where you've plotted your trend line here, the mark scheme will allow quite a bit of leniency on that, and actually any value between 17 and 18 is a plausible answer at this stage. The final part of the question, 3-part D, asks us to comment on an initiative that the Deputy Principal has put into place, and that is that he has put incentives in to try and reduce the number of absences on the Friday. The percentage absent actually on Friday of week 5 was 15.2. And in light of our prediction in part C, which we made of 17.6, we're asked to comment on how effective we think the deputy principal's incentives have been. Well, 15.2 is lower than the value that we were predicting of 17.6. So there might be some idea that what the deputy principal has put in place has had some positive impact. However, if you look back at the graph, going back on previous Fridays, actually that value is still an increase on what we were observing before on a Friday, these two values here. So on that basis, one could argue as to how effective the incentives have been. It would be sensible, I think, to monitor over future weeks just to see if those incentives took hold and actually it did have a positive impact. But again, a sensible interpretation based on your prediction that you've made before is what they'd be looking for this question. So that concludes moving averages.